progressive educrat enclave known as Loudoun, Virginia strikes again, confining a young student to a closet because his parents opted him out of transgender indoctrination. Well, it just goes to figure that once you decide little white boys are responsible for slavery, you can treat them like slaves. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is the Dr. Duke Show. Hello everyone and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today's show is supported, as every day is, by Mike Lindell and our friends at MyPillow. You want a great pillow? A pillow that does what a pillow's supposed to do: give you support, make you feel comfortable, and give you happy dreams. If you like those kind of pillows, consider MyPillow. For more than 15 years, MyPillow has been producing the most comfortable pillows in the world. But did you know they also sell Egyptian cotton sheets? And that's the specialty this week. Some of the greatest, softest sheets in the world. And you buy one and mention the Dr. Duke Show, you get one free. So buy one, get one free if you enter the access code Dr. Duke. That's D-R-D-U-K-E. D-R-D-U-K-E gets you a free set of sheets. And what could possibly go wrong with that? And if you go to MyPillow, you can also get 66% off on other things like pillows and towels and blankets and dog beds and slippers, robes, all sorts of great stuff. So that access code again is Dr. Duke, D-R-D-U-K-E, to save up to 60%. We love MyPillow, and we want you to support them because when you support them, you're supporting our show. All right, today we start in Virginia, as we just said before, has become the epicenter of liberal progressive silliness when it comes to education, particularly Loudoun County, which is one of the most wealthy counties. It's pretty much occupied by Washington, D.C. bureaucrats who are living in the suburbs of Virginia and driving to work. And so it's a huge, great big blue school district. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of students in this school district. So when they make news, it becomes national news. And in Loudoun, we're seeing them at it again. You have a middle school young boy who was sent into a small isolation room when his parents asked he be opt out of the really heavy transgender indoctrination that was taking place. So kid opts out, and so you're going to let everybody know that he's being sent to the hole. Remember those great movies, those prisoner of war movies? Little kid gets sent to the hole because he doesn't want to sit there and be indoctrinated.
Now, I do believe at this point we could just have, pick a day of the week and call it, Thursdays with Loudoun County.
Loudoun
because
Thursdays.
That's where we're at with Loudoun County in the insanity that is happening there, and don't forget neighboring Fairfax County.
Yep.
But in this specific instance, there's actually a couple stories going on. Not only is it the fact that what the lesson entailed, but the simple fact that the child opting out, then being sent to a special little closet sort of space. It's better than what Harry Potter had, but it's still, he was isolated with nothing to do.
Yeah, you're
alternative lesson of education.
Nope.
Just sit there.
Not allowed to do anything else. You're letting them know you can opt out. You can opt your kid out, but your kid's going to be in solitary confinement if he does.
But at least he actually had a better education during that time, because whatever was in his own mind, his imagination, did better than what
the other
happened.
Kids were
so
getting
what the other kids were getting, of course, because it was Pride Month, it was at Harper Park Middle School in Leesburg, to be specific. And so a lot of schools are doing this now, where they have they're calling it advisory learning classes. So it's like homeroom. But during this homeroom, then they're giving all these lessons about like social emotional learning and the bullying and all this type of stuff. And so for this specific one, we had the German teacher of all people, the German teacher, to give a lesson. Her name is Kelly Ferris, about pronoun usage. Let's roll clip.
My pronouns are they, them. So if you were to talk about me, you'd say, Kelly's going to the movies, they're going to the movies. Pronouns, we share our pronouns and we talk about sharing our pronouns, and it's a really important step, because when someone shares their pronouns with you and their pronouns might seem to contradict what you believe about them or what you assume about them, but when someone shares their pronouns with you, we're sharing our name, we're sharing who we are, our identity, and that's a form of trust.
What she says in that video is not anything accurate. As a German teacher, she should know the importance of pronouns.
Well, pronouns are not names.
They are not.
That's like saying an adjective, right? When we talk about our adjectives, that's who we are. No, it's not. It's a figure of speech. For God's sake, woman, if you want to make up any gender for yourself, if you want to toddle around pretending to be anybody you want, this is America 2021. No one's going to give you a hard time. But why do you have to take the language and gerrymander it? Right? Call yourself whatever you want, but quit pretending that when you're doing this, you're engaging in an act of intimacy. No, you're not. You're just twisting the language because you have the power, you believe you have the power to do so, forcing people to speak, to misuse language to accommodate you. And that has really never happened before. All these movements that have gained acceptance in the United States, all of these different outside groups that over time became inside groups, welcomed aboard as equality grows and grows, almost never did we ever have to do that. No one group has got to change the way the English language works for their own particular purposes, but you think you're entitled to do so. It's a very odd thing, Kelly.
Well, and as being the German teacher, the kids now, if they're smart, can put whatever pronouns on whatever German language assignment and say that's how they identify. So you can mark nothing wrong, Kelly, to any of these kids because language clearly doesn't matter to you.
Bingo. If you're taking her German test now and she takes points off because you misuse pronouns, you got her, right? I mean, and it doesn't stop with pronouns. If language is utterly subjective, if it is what you say it is, rules like capitalization, punctuation, all of these things, they're completely mutable. I mean, you have no right to tell me how I speak the language.
And Brenda Tillett, who's president of Stand Up Virginia, it's a nonprofit, fights for parental rights, education, law enforcement, all that. She said that absolutely pronouns are not who like you are.
Right.
It's just that, and she says, you know, because in the video, Kelly says about trusting, you know, like that's trust with the person. She's like, and they don't trust that person. That's completely untrue. That's emotional abuse. And that it was an extremely manipulative conversation that's disguised under the banner of kindness and trust. And this is what's happening in all our schools. Your kids are being told, well, it's in the name of fairness and equity and
being held
kindness,
hostage.
And the kids don't know any better.
They are linguistic hostages. You either co-opt language to what we say it is, or you're a bigot. That's what it comes down to.
And being held hostage, if you decide to opt out, was the student, the boy who was taken. He was taken to like that isolation room next to the dean's office. Like there's a video out there where you can see he opens the door and he sees there's the dean's office. So the kid was during that advisory time in that room, and then the parents, like, because the kid videoed it, was able to see like what actually happened, and so they rose up about it, and that's how we know about this story. Otherwise, no one would know about this, because you know what? This is happening all across the country in all of your kids' classrooms. They're advisory times.
And these advisory times are taking more and more of your day. And they're doing advisory time inside of classrooms. It's not just homeroom. It's not just lunch. It's not just recess or gym class. What they're doing is they're taking huge bites out of the day. You think your kid's in English class reading book? You think your kid's in science class studying geology or something like that? No. More and more that encroaching upon the day are these advisory times where they're learned how to use the right pronouns, how to learn that the color of their skin makes them racist, how to learn that 1,000 different leftist socialist Marxist tools that are handed to them, and you think they're safely in classrooms learning other subjects. We know for a fact that the American public school kids are not learning how to read, write, and do math. The numbers are in. It's incontrovertibly true. So what are they using the public schools that time to fill? They're not teaching your kids those basics. They're teaching them stuff like this. And to get a German teacher, to get a local teacher in that very school to tell you, lecture you, play on your emotional strings, right? When I ask you to call me they's going to the movie. This is an act of trust. No, it's not. And as you pointed out, Katie, it's a double betrayal. It's a betrayal of honesty and truth about what language is, and it's a betrayal from a language professor, a teacher whose job it is to teach languages. It's a double betrayal. It
wouldn't be a Loudoun County day without the actual school board
More Loudoun.
involved. So now at the school board meetings, because we've shown them, I don't know how many times at this point, I haven't counted, but basically every school board meeting you need some popcorn and to tune in because it gets riotous. And at this recent one, they got even wilder. The room with the school board meeting actually had to be cleared out at the most recent meeting, and the little school board members had to run away, scamper off because, I don't know, they were scared or something. But basically what happened is they estimate more than 200 people in attendance for public comment. Like more than 200 people signed up just to speak out, mostly, against, transgender affirming policy that's going on in their school, or CRT, or any all of it, like all of it. And so community members, there were some who spoke in favor of it. Mostly, I think, were speaking against it. And of course, the school board members demanded silence. You cannot speak, like in the audience. And when the Virginia state senator, he's a former state senator named Dick Black, he spoke against critical race theory, the crowd began to cheer.
Disgusted by your bigotry and your depravity. It's time to replace.
And this poor audience was told by the school board, you cannot clap or make noise. If you do, we're shutting you down. So you saw everybody doing this, they were doing air clapping.
Yeah.
Right? They were clapping without making noise.
But then they made noise.
But then they started with their voices.
And that's when it got scary. And that's when the board...
How dare you? This is America. How dare you voice your principle?
Then demanded that the room be cleared, and they fled. And chaos grew even more when the national anthem was sung.
Yes, spontaneously, these group of moms and dads started singing the national anthem, and boy, that if that wasn't that's like water to the witch in the Wizard of Oz. The national anthem and these, so spontaneously, the crowd starts singing that. The board members all run away, and this is the scene that we have.
So then they sang, and then a sheriff's deputy actually got involved, took to the microphone to declare that it was an unlawful assembly happening, and that everyone needed to get out or to be subject for trespassing. And at least one man refused and was arrested, and supposedly there were 2 attendees who were injured at some point and required some medical attention. So let's take a look at that.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the unlawful assembly. Please move, leave the room, or you'll be subject to arrest for trespassing. You need to be arrested! There will be no further warnings.
So let me see if I got this right. If you call yourself Antifa or Black Lives Matter, and you pour into the streets in the middle of COVID without your masks, and you burn things down, and you loot, and you pillage, that's lawful protest.
Correct.
Okay, it is. But to be at a public building for a public school board and to sing the national anthem, that's an unlawful protest. Is that about how is this? It's about where we are in America.
And you are trespassing as well.
You're trespassing. This is America 2021. This is where we are.
This is where we are. Well, a man named Ian Pryor, who's the executive director of Fight for Schools, said that Loudoun County Schools continues to show an unabashed hostility to the First Amendment rights of students, parents, and teachers with whom they disagree. It's time for school boards across America to stop being held captive by activists and special interests and give parents a seat at the table to help guide the education that they pay for their children to receive.
Or stop calling them public schools. Stop
that too.
It. If you're not going to let the parents who pay for your school with all their property taxes, if you're not going to let parents and children have a say, if you're not going to allow local parents who are the primary stakeholders of public education to suggest, to support, to reject, if they have no say, then you're not a public school. Call yourselves what you are, government indoctrination centers. Let the feds fund you. Give moms and dads back their real estate money, their real estate property taxes. Let them pick alternative schools. You have 2 choices. Either be a public school or quit pretending that you are and become what you want to be, government indoctrination centers.
Now, I do want to let everyone know that the board didn't just run away. They did come back, but in closed session. And so no one was there after everyone was gone.
Yeah,
that's the school board. But hey, Chairwoman Brenda Sheridan said, "We will not back down from fighting for the rights of our students and continuing our focus on equity."
Is it, Katie? Is it more Virginia?
More Virginia.
More Virginia.
Just for you today. If it's not Loudoun County, it's Fairfax County, the neighbor. And we have school board members from Fairfax County taking it upon themselves, as they always do, to not do things associated at all with educating your children. 2 members of the Fairfax County School Board, Laura Jane Cohen and Carl Frisch, decided they wanted to submit a request for a Preventing Gun Violence work group for the state of Virginia, citing the record-breaking sales of firearms during COVID-19. So they basically looked and saw that people, members of the nation, especially in their area, were buying guns, so they needed to protect themselves by getting the state to handle it.
So let me understand this, right? These are just school board members.
School board members.
They're bothered by the fact that there was a huge surge in gun buying during COVID.
Yep.
And as school board members, they've decided that they want to do something about that.
Well, yes.
And what qualifies them? What does being a school board member, how does that actually qualify you for this kind of activism?
That's it.
Yeah, it
School
doesn't.
board member.
By the way, do these school board members know that it's primarily African American and Hispanic and women who are buying those guns?
You know what?
Do you think they know?
I don't think they research anything.
I don't think they research
So the
anything
board said they aim to create a plan to keep students and schools safe by aligning curriculum, safety protocols, professional development, legislative priorities, and parent-guardian resources.
So basically
None of
hijacking
that
the
says
schools.
anything about education.
So we're going to hijack the schools and the curriculum and the resources to make our schools anti-Second Amendment. That's pretty much what it is?
Yes, yes. The proposal calls on the state, actually, because they say, state, come help us, to enact comprehensive gun violence prevention legislation, including universal background checks, a ban on assault-style weapons, and increased funding for gun dealer oversight. It justified the taxpayer-funded, mind you, taxpayer-funded, educational institutions lobbying on hot-button social issues by saying it related to student achievement.
Ah, yes.
Because providing a safe learning environment is essential.
So your mom and dad can't have guns because it
doesn't create a safe learning environment.
It doesn't create a safe learning environment for us at the school. Even though there are no guns allowed on campus, and you've actually thrown the police off campus, still, because private citizens own guns, our kids can't get a safe education.
But that's the gun component.
Yes.
But the education component, they also don't have. So you want the guns out of mom and dad's at home, so that on campus you can educate them safely in what? Because we know it's not reading, writing, and math.
The argument,
we know it's not
what
that.
it is that the only safe place is a world free of guns. Until the whole world has been stripped of guns, there will be no safe educational venues, right? And then once they get guns banned, what's
racist.
Next?
I'm just going to call it. That's racist.
No sugary drinks in your
racist.
No sugary drinks in your refrigerator.
I'm actually okay with that, but that's a private
childhood
decision.
Obesity is a huge safety that affects children's learning. Until every refrigerator has been scoured of Coca-Cola, there will be no safe learning environment. You know what I'm talking about?
Without going down a rabbit hole, if you want to talk about childhood obesity and childhood with COVID, but we're not going to go there because we're not allowed to, but which one's more dangerous?
Who said we're not allowed to?
The world.
The world.
But anyway, back to this. So as the request reads, it says, by advancing this forum topic, the board agrees to the following specific actions. The FCSB, so the Fairfax County School Board, supports comprehensive gun violence prevention legislation, including, but not limited to, requiring universal background checks, closing the Charleston loophole, disarming domestic abusers, increasing support for violence prevention programs, implementing extreme risk protection orders, prohibit so-called ghost guns and assault-style weapons, addressing police gun violence, increasing timely access to gun violence data, and boosting funding for gun dealer oversight and public health research.
Meanwhile, Virginia kids can't
There
read,
it is.
can't write, can't do math. They're 2 and 3 years behind where they should be at grade level. They're not ready for college. They're certainly not ready for career. You're graduating illiterate kids, but you just don't worry about that. Your kids may not be able to read and write, but they got your back, Virginia. They're working so hard on getting rid of the Second Amendment so your kids can go to school and learn nothing.
Oh, and one more thing, icing on this cake. In the proposal, they also have a student rights and responsibilities form.
Ah, yes.
It's like a permission slip, basically, that parents would be required to sign the form that they acknowledge awareness of the legal obligations. So they're trying to get knowing if you have guns in your house or not.
They're trying to force parents to sign a pledge that they will not use guns, and pretending that they have the law on their side to do it. That if you don't sign this pledge or you violate your pledge and actually have a gun, that there's something they could do to you. This is the kind of manipulative garbage that goes on in place of education. You know, maybe, just maybe, if our public schools were actually doing what we hired them to do, if our kids were all graduating with, you know, opportunities, they were literate, they were culturally aware, they knew history, they had an understanding of the scientific origins of the universe, if all those things were true, maybe we would concede that, okay, you guys have done such a great job. You want to enter the world of public relations. You want to branch out and become advocates and activists. Well, you've got our kids pretty darn educated. But you can't even do that one thing. And so why should we trust you with the others? All right, now time for Instant Classics. And as you know, Instant Classics is our chance to give you a little actual education at the end of the show. Try to remind you what education would be like if we focused on humanities, if we focused on human values, if education went back to what it was before it was radically politicized by leftist educrats. Kids learned things. Kids were open to multiple views on things. Kids didn't get critical race theory. They got critical thinking skills. They saw multiple perspectives and ways of doing things, and they got to decide for themselves what they believed. So we were talking this week about how not critical race theory is not overwhelming the public schools. It's being dragged into our military academies, where young cadets, young soldiers now are being having their education corrupted by radical left-wing critical race theory. White soldiers are being told that they are responsible for the world's problem, that the single biggest threat facing America is not China, not Russia, not nuclear violence, but white terrorists in America. Okay, fine. So let's go back and look educationally at what an actual American general had to say about these things. This has been Patton Week on the Dr. Duke Show, looking at quotes from General Patton. Things that stand, if you look at what we've read from Patton so far, you see how much different the education of a military, how much more humane the education of a soldier was back before we got into all this political correctness. Here's a quote from Patton. Quote, "A man must know his destiny. If he does not recognize it, then he is lost. By this I mean once, twice, or at the very most 3 times, fate will reach out and tap a man on the shoulder. If he has the imagination, he will turn around and fate will point out to him what fork in the road he should take. If he has the guts, he will take it. That there is a purpose for all of us, and we'll be reminded of that purpose. We just have to be aware when that tap on the shoulder comes." And how about this quote from General George S. Patton? Quote, "I don't measure a man's success by how high he climbs, but how high he bounces when he hits the bottom." For me, and this is a beautifully humane statement, I don't measure a man by how much he's able to get through ambition. I measure a man's success about how he handles defeats. And that is a wonderful lesson. Not learning that at West Point anymore because they're too busy learning that white people are all racist and preparing to fight the next war, which is going to be against white Americans, apparently.
All right, those are the stories for today. If you have a question, please feel free to drop it into the mailbag by emailing askduke@fpeusa.org. And of course, if you enjoy our content, please consider joining our Patriot Club. Your one-time $99 tax-deductible donation allows us to keep bringing you these crazy stories every day. Simply visit patriotclub.us to get signed up. That's patriotclub.us. And as a little thank you, we will ship you our signature tumbler.
And this is that signature tumbler. And this is what we'll ship to you. And that's going to do it for this show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends.